I was doing some reading about this idea that if you immerse yourself into a foreign language, that you can actually rewire your brain.
The Sapir-Whorf-Hypothesis. It's the theory that the language you speak determines how you think and...
Yeah, it affects how you see everything.
How many languages do you speak?
I would say 4. German, English, Italian, and Swedish.
German, English, and my dad is from Turkey, so Turkish, and also Sorbian, which is like a Slavic language that not many people speak.
I know German and I know English. I have studied Japanese before and Spanish. I've started since this semester my Russian course.
German, English, French, and Chinese.
And do you feel that you think differently when you speak different languages?
Yeah, definitely. In Italian, like food is a very big part of Italian culture, so the language is really around food a lot.
Yeah, for sure. I think I'm more extrovert when I was speaking in English compared to German.
Yeah, I think so. German is more direct, Chinese is more indirect. When I speak with Chinese people, I will try to be less direct in order not to offend them, for example.
No, not necessarily, but words have different connotations, so sometimes it's hard to translate.
I think that the way you speak also depends on the way you think. There's an interconnection with this.
Yes, definitely. Because they have different structures in grammar?
Yes, definitely. Simply because the language is a tool and it enables you to formulate your thoughts.
And then do you think that groups of people who speak different languages also have different worldviews?
Yeah, of course. I think language influences culture and the way of thinking.
Then a further question would be, do you suppose that German people and Japanese people actually think of the world differently?
Well, in general, it's hard to say about all the Japanese and all the German people, but maybe they think in similar ways, but they formulate it differently simply because of the language.
I don't know. Maybe.
I've never thought about that. I don't think so.
Thought about it. Cheers. Okay.
大家好，我是苏阳。Je fais maintenant mon master en études transculturelles en Allemagne. Aujourd'hui, on va parler de la relation entre langue et culture d'un point de vue transculturel. Et c'est ma collègue Sakura.
こんにちは、さくらです。今回は私たちの第1話、文化と言語について見てくれてありがとうございます。楽しんでいただけると幸いです。
Mir persönlich gefällt dieses Thema sehr, also Kultur und Sprache, da ich selbst 4 Sprachen spreche und der Umgang mit fremden Sprachen schon seit Jahren einen großen Teil meines Lebens ist. Und was ist mit dir?
Ja, ich bin ganz deiner Meinung. Habe schon lange darüber gedacht, wie die Beziehung zwischen Kultur und Sprache ist. By the way, you brought up this topic, linguistic relativity, to our first episode. How did you come up with this idea?
Actually, the first time I ran into this hypothesis was in a science fiction novella, The Story of Your Life. There's a group of aliens who speak a language which is completely different to all existent human languages. And therefore, the aliens also think very differently to us mankind.
That's very interesting. I also did a little bit of research about this. And linguistic relativity basically claims that each language embodies a worldview, so that speakers of different languages think about the world in quite different ways.
But I think that's only part of its connotation, and a huge part of the connotation just went unnoticed.
Oh yeah? Can you explain a little bit more about that?
If we just look a little bit more into the historical development of this hypothesis, it's very obvious that its opinion, people speaking different languages think differently, appeared for a reason. For instance, in the very beginning, namely the late 18th and early 19th century, this hypothesis where the idea of language difference actually originated in the German Romantic school. The German philosophers like Johann Georg Hamann, Wilhelm von Humboldt, they were so captivated by the idea of Volksgeist, existence of different national characters, and therefore they want to make the point with the evidence of this language difference that there are also different national characters, so each nation is different from another. And that's also the very beginning of the ethnic nationalism.
And also later on, 20th century, imperialists also used this language differences to claim that certain societies are better than others because they speak more complicated languages.
Yeah, true. But I mean, who has a right to claim which language is more complicated? And therefore, in the historical development of this hypothesis, I actually see more misunderstanding and even arrogance instead of objectivity.
So you don't think people think differently when they speak different languages?
No and yes. I mean, it completely depends on how we look at language. For example, language could be a pure scientific object for linguists, but it could also be a social phenomenon for historians and sociologists, and also for us transcultural scholars. When the language is seen as a scientific object, then the differences in semantic, grammatic, syntactic, and all other ontological aspects of language do exist.
Oh yeah, that's actually explain why some of our interviewees looks hesitant when you ask question whether they think differently when they speak different languages. It's actually because there's so many layers of implicit meanings behind language differences.
Totally. And therefore, for me, linguistic relativity hypothesis, it's trivially true, but certainly false.
Thank you for watching our first episode. I hope you guys enjoyed, and stay tuned for more upcoming contents.